He went to sleep alone that night. He checked the main door twice, turned the lock slowly, and even pushed it to make sure it would not open. He closed every window, pulled the curtains, and walked through each room like he always did before sleeping. Nothing felt strange, nothing felt different, and nothing felt wrong. He lived alone in a small apartment on the 3rd floor of an old building at the edge of the city. No girlfriend, no roommate, no late-night visitors. Just silence. Before we continue, if you enjoy suspenseful HFY sci-fi stories like this, gently consider subscribing to the channel so you never miss what happens next. That night, he fell asleep around midnight, tired after a long day at work. The fan above him made a soft clicking sound, the same sound it made every night. Outside, distant traffic moved like a low river of noise. Everything was normal, completely normal. Morning sunlight slowly touched his face. Warm light pressed against his closed eyes. He moved slightly under the blanket and tried to ignore the light. Then he felt something strange. There was warmth beside him. Not just heat from the blanket, real warmth. Like another body, close to his. He stayed still for a moment. Half asleep, half awake. Maybe he was dreaming. Maybe he rolled too close to the wall and imagined something. Then he heard it. Soft breathing. Slow and steady. Not his. His heart skipped once. His mind cleared instantly. He knew he slept alone. He remembered locking the door. He remembered checking everything. Very slowly, he opened his eyes. The ceiling looked the same. The fan still turning. The morning light still calm. Nothing looked broken or disturbed. He felt the warmth again. Closer now. Carefully, he turned his head. At first, he thought his brain was still dreaming. A woman was lying beside him. Her face peaceful, her eyes closed. But she was not human. Her skin had a faint silver glow. Not bright, just enough to look unnatural. Her hair spread across his pillow like dark glass, smooth and shining in the sunlight. Thin lines moved gently along her neck, glowing softly like quiet veins of light. He stopped breathing. His body froze completely. His door had been locked. There were no broken windows, no sound during the night. She was lying on her side, facing him, only inches away. He could see tiny patterns on her skin that looked almost like stars. His first thought was fear. His second thought was confusion. His third thought was that he had lost his mind. He slowly tried to move his arm. Maybe he could slide out of bed quietly. Maybe he could run to the door. But before he could move even a little, her eyes opened. They were violet, deep, glowing softly, but not bright enough to hurt. She did not look shocked. She did not look afraid. She looked calm, like she expected him to be there. For a long second, they just stared at each other. His heart was beating so loud he was sure she could hear it. Then she spoke. Her voice was soft but clear. "You are safe," she said. Her lips moved slowly, the words careful, like she was learning them. He tried to speak, but nothing came out. His throat felt dry. His mind searched for logic. Was this a prank? Was this some strange dream that felt too real? How could anyone enter his locked apartment without a sound? She slowly raised her hand. Her fingers were longer than human fingers, smooth and elegant. He wanted to move away, but his body refused. Gently, she touched his forehead. The moment her skin made contact, the world around him disappeared. He saw flashes of something else. A sky burning red, massive ships floating above cities, buildings collapsing in silence, people running in panic, soldiers firing weapons that looked useless against dark shapes in the air, a planet under attack. Earth. He saw it clearly. He saw himself standing in the middle of chaos. He felt fear. He felt resistance. He felt something inside him reacting. Then everything went black. He gasped and found himself back in his bed. Sweat covered his face. The room looked normal again, but she was still there, still watching him. Her expression had changed slightly. Now there was urgency in her eyes. "They're coming for you now," she whispered. Outside, in the far distance, he heard a low vibration in the air, a sound too deep to be thunder, too steady to be wind. The morning that began like every other morning had already become something impossible. And he knew, deep inside, that his life would never return to normal again. The low vibration outside did not stop. It grew slowly, like something large moving through the sky, far above the clouds. He pushed himself backward against the headboard, trying to create distance between himself and the strange woman beside him. His mind was racing, but his body still felt heavy from whatever she had shown him. "You need to explain," he finally managed to say, his voice shaking slightly. She watched him carefully, not like a predator, not like a friend, but like a scientist studying something rare. "I will explain," she replied calmly, "but you must remain quiet." Her English sounded careful, like she was building each sentence piece by piece inside her mind. He glanced at the door, still closed, still locked. "How did you get in here?" he asked, forcing courage into his voice. She looked toward the wall as if the answer was obvious. "Your walls are solid to you," she said softly, "not to me." That answer did not help him feel better. He swallowed hard. "You said they are coming from me," he continued. "Who are they?" For the first time, something like concern crossed her face. "The ones who marked your world," she said. "Marked?" The word felt cold. "I don't understand," he replied. "You are not meant to understand," she said gently. "Your species was meant to sleep." He stared at her. "My species," he repeated. She nodded once. "I am not from Earth," she said plainly. The words hung in the air between them. He let out a short, nervous laugh. "I figured that part out," he said, though his voice lacked humor. She ignored the joke. "My people travel between systems," she continued. "We study civilizations before they rise too far." "Rise too far," he repeated again. "Yes," she said. "When a species becomes unpredictable, it becomes dangerous." He felt something twist in his chest. "Dangerous to who?" he asked. "To order," she answered. The vibration outside pulsed again, slightly stronger now. He noticed the glass of water on his table trembling just a little. "You showed me Earth burning," he said, his voice lower now. "Was that real?" She looked at him without blinking. "It is one possible outcome," she replied. "Possible," he whispered. "Yes," she said, "if they confirm what you are." His confusion turned into frustration. "What am I?" he demanded. She slowly lifted her left wrist. A thin band of silver metal wrapped around it, smooth and seamless. With a small motion of her fingers, the band unfolded into a floating screen of light. Strange symbols moved across it, shifting and glowing in patterns he could not read. She reached toward him again, but this time she did not touch him. A soft beam of light scanned across his chest and head. He felt a slight warmth inside his skull, like static building behind his eyes. The symbols on her screen changed rapidly. Her expression shifted. Shock. "You survived activation," she said quietly, almost to herself. "Activation of what?" he asked quickly. She looked at him now with something different in her eyes. Not just curiosity, recognition. "Years ago," she began, "a signal was planted inside your world." "Planted how?" he interrupted. "In your atmosphere, in your radiation belts, hidden inside solar storms," she explained. "That makes no sense," he said, shaking his head. "It was not meant to make sense," she replied. She moved closer slightly, and he felt that strange warmth again. "The signal awakens only certain neural patterns," she continued. "Most humans never react." "And I did," he said slowly. "Yes," she confirmed. His heart beat harder. "So what does that mean?" he asked. "It means your mind can resist," she answered. "Resist what?" he demanded. She turned her head slightly toward the ceiling, as if she could see through it. "Control," she said. The word settled heavily in the room. Outside, a distant siren began to sound somewhere in the city. He stood up suddenly, walking to the window and pulling the curtain aside just a little. The sky looked normal at first, pale blue with thin clouds. But high above, almost invisible, he noticed faint dark shapes. Too still to be clouds, too large to be planes. His stomach tightened. "They are searching," she said behind him. "For me," he whispered. For the anomaly, she corrected gently. He turned back toward her. Why are you helping me? He asked. She did not answer immediately. Instead, she deactivated the glowing screen on her wrist. I was sent to observe your world, she admitted quietly. Observe, he repeated. Yes, she said. To prepare for compliance. Compliance. The word felt worse than invasion. And now, he asked carefully, what are you doing now? Her violet eyes met his again. Now I am interfering, she said. A sudden sharp vibration shook the building slightly. Not enough to break anything, but enough to make the walls hum. Somewhere outside, car alarms began to trigger one after another. Her face grew serious. They have detected the activation pulse, she said quickly. The pulse from me, he asked. Yes, she answered. He felt the world shrinking around him. How long do we have? He asked. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Less than 12 hours before they locate you precisely, she said. And when they do, he whispered. Her eyes did not soften this time. They will not knock on your door, she replied. The vibration outside grew stronger. And for the first time, he realized this was no longer about understanding what was happening. It was about surviving it. The vibration in the sky no longer felt distant. It felt present, like something heavy was pressing down on the entire city. He stood near the window, staring upward, trying to focus on the faint shapes hidden behind the clouds. They were clearer now, massive dark forms resting in the upper atmosphere, perfectly still, too large to be aircraft, too silent to be normal. The sirens outside grew louder. Car alarms continued screaming. People in nearby buildings stepped onto balconies, pointing at the sky in confusion. He stepped back from the window slowly. This is not normal weather, is it? He said quietly. No, she replied, her eyes fixed upward as if she could see through concrete and steel. They have entered observation orbit. Observation, he repeated, trying to steady his breathing. They are confirming, she explained. Confirming what? He asked. That you exist, she answered. His throat tightened. I'm just one person, he said. You are not just one person, she corrected gently. Before he could respond, every screen in the room flickered at the same time. His television turned on by itself. His phone vibrated violently on the table. The laptop in the corner lit up. On each screen appeared static. Then a strange symbol formed in the center. A black circle surrounded by moving silver lines. The symbol pulsed slowly. He felt pressure in his head, a low hum building inside his skull. She reacted instantly. Her wrist device expanded again, glowing brighter than before. She moved her hand through the air, and the screens shattered into sparks of harmless light before going dark. The pressure in his head faded slightly. They are scanning neural frequencies, she said sharply. For me, he whispered. Yes, she replied. They're looking for resistance. Outside, a loud boom echoed across the city. Not an explosion, something else, like air itself tearing. He rushed back to the window, this time pulling the curtain fully aside. High above the tallest buildings, something moved, a long metallic shape slowly descending through the clouds. It did not burn like a meteor. It did not roar like a jet. It simply moved downward with perfect control. The sunlight reflected off its surface in strange angles. Its shape was not smooth. It looked layered, like overlapping plates of dark metal shifting constantly. That is only a scout carrier, she said quietly behind him. Only, he repeated in disbelief. The craft stopped in mid-air, hovering silently above the city center. Moments later, smaller objects detached from it. Tiny black dots at first, then clearer shapes as they descended faster. They were not ships. They were machines. Long, sharp insect-like drones. Dozens of them. They spread out across the sky like hunting birds. His heart began racing again. What are they doing? He asked. They are narrowing the search grid, she replied. As if responding to her words, one of the drones suddenly shifted direction sharply. It angled toward his part of the city, flying low between buildings. Fast, precise. They feel it, she whispered. Feel what? He asked. You, she said. A second boom echoed closer this time. Windows in nearby buildings rattled violently. People began shouting outside. Some are filming the sky with their phones. Some are running. He turned back to her. You said your people serve them, he said quickly. What does that mean? Her expression darkened slightly. My species was once part of the enforcement circle, she explained. Enforcement of what? He asked. Galactic compliance, she answered. He stared at her. You mean you helped them destroy worlds? He said quietly. She did not look away. Yes, she said. The word felt heavier than the vibration in the sky. Then why are you here? He demanded. Because humans are different, she replied immediately. Different how? He pressed. You fight without certainty, she said. You resist even when logic predicts failure. That is not special, he said. It is extremely rare, she answered calmly. Before he could say anything else, a violent crash exploded through his living room window. Glass shattered across the floor. A black metallic object slammed into the wall and unfolded instantly. It was one of the drones. Long, sharp limbs extended outward. Its surface smooth and reflective like dark liquid metal. A red line glowed at its center, scanning rapidly across the room. He stumbled backward, his heart pounding so hard it felt painful. The drone's red line passed over him. It paused. The red light turned brighter. It has found you, she said sharply. In a single smooth motion, she stepped in front of him. Her hand lifted. Energy pulsed outward from her palm in a burst of white light. The drone froze mid-movement, its limbs twitching violently. Then it collapsed into a pile of lifeless metal, smoke rising from its broken core. Silence filled the room for one long second. Then her wrist device flashed urgently. They recorded your DNA signature, she said quickly. Meaning what? He asked. Meaning the search is over, she replied. As if confirming her words, the massive ship above the city shifted position, its lower surface opening slowly, revealing a deep, glowing core. The sky around it darkened unnaturally, clouds swirling toward it like water down a drain. People below began screaming openly now. Sirens multiplied across the city. He felt fear rising like ice through his veins. What happens now? He asked, his voice barely steady. She stepped beside him, looking out the broken window at the impossible sight above. Now, she said softly, they send the hunters. And from the belly of the massive ship, 3 larger crafts detached, descending directly toward his district. Slow, purposeful, unstoppable. The sky above the city no longer looked like Earth sky. It looked claimed. The 3 larger crafts moved through the air with slow confidence, not rushing, not hiding. They did not need to hurry. They knew exactly where to go. He stepped away from the broken window, his legs weak, but his mind strangely clear now. Fear was still there, but something else was rising with it. Something steady. She stood beside him, watching the descending ships without panic. They are not here to destroy the city, she said quietly. Then what are they here for? He asked. They are here for you, she replied. The words should have crushed him. Instead, he felt anger. I did nothing, he said. You were born, she answered calmly. He stared at her. You said humans are different, he reminded her. Different how exactly? She turned toward him fully now, her violet eyes reflecting the strange light from the sky. In most civilizations, she began, when a dominant force appears, resistance collapses quickly. Because it is logical, she continued, survival through surrender. He said nothing, listening carefully. But humans, she said, her voice slightly softer now. Your species has a pattern we could not predict. What pattern? He asked. You fight even when the outcome is impossible, she replied. He almost laughed, but there was no humor left inside him. That just sounds stupid, he said. To us, yes, she answered. To you, it is identity. Outside, military jets screamed across the sky, flying toward the massive carrier above the city. Missiles launched, leaving trails of smoke behind them. The missile struck the ship's surface and exploded in bright flashes. The ship did not move. It did not even react. The explosions faded like sparks against a mountain. The jets circled again, preparing another strike. "They are brave," she said quietly, watching the pilots. "They are human," he replied without thinking. She looked at him carefully. "Exactly," she said. He felt something strange in his chest again. Not fear this time. Not confusion. Something warmer. "You studied us," he said slowly. "Yes," she replied. "What did you see?" he asked. She paused for a moment, as if choosing her words carefully. "I saw wars that should have ended you," she said, "but did not. I saw cities rebuilt after destruction. I saw exploration beyond your planet, even before you solved your internal conflicts. I saw individuals sacrifice themselves for strangers." Her voice did not carry emotion the way a human voice would, but there was weight behind her words. "You call it stubbornness," she continued. "We call it anomaly." He leaned against the wall, processing everything. "So that signal you planted," he said carefully, "it was meant to test us?" "Yes," she answered. "To see if we would resist," he continued. "Yes," she repeated. "And I passed," he said quietly. "You did more than pass," she replied. Her wrist device activated again, projecting a faint image into the air between them. It showed a complex network of light patterns, spreading like veins across a planet. "This is your neural grid," she explained. "Our signal attempts to synchronize with developing species. If synchronization succeeds, the species becomes compliant before expansion." He frowned. "Compliant means controlled," he said. "Yes," she replied without hesitation. "And if synchronization fails," he asked, "then the species is labeled unstable," she answered. He already knew the next word before she said it. "Unstable species are removed," she finished calmly. His stomach tightened. "And I am unstable," he said. "You are resistant," she corrected. Outside, the three descending crafts reached lower altitude. They moved between skyscrapers now, casting massive shadows over streets below. People ran in every direction. Police cars tried to block intersections. Soldiers formed lines with weapons raised. The air itself seemed heavier. "You said my brain can resist control," he said quickly. "Why me?" She looked at him with intense focus. "Your neural structure contains rare, fractal pathways," she explained. "That means nothing to me," he replied. "It means your mind adapts under pressure instead of breaking," she simplified. He swallowed slowly. "So they cannot control me," he said. "Not easily," she replied. "And that is important," because he pressed. "Because if one human can resist," she said, "others can learn." Her words landed slowly in his mind. "You mean I'm not just surviving," he said. "You are proof," she answered. A loud explosion shook the building again, much closer this time. Dust fell from the ceiling. People screamed in the hallway outside his apartment. The hunters had arrived in his district. He moved toward the door instinctively, then stopped. His fear was still there, but felt different now, more focused. "They think humans will panic," she said quietly. "Most are," he replied honestly. "Yes," she agreed, "but panic does not last long in your species." As if confirming her words, he heard shouting outside. Not his fear, commands, coordination, neighbors helping each other move down the stairs. Someone yelling to grab emergency supplies. Someone else guiding children. In the middle of invasion, people were organizing. "They adapt," she said softly, almost to herself. He looked at her directly. "What happens if we fight?" he asked. She did not hesitate this time. "If you fight alone, you fall," she said. "If you fight together, you change probability." Another deep mechanical sound echoed from outside. Heavy footsteps, metal striking pavement. The hunters were on the ground now. He felt the strange warmth inside his skull again, like something waking up. She noticed it instantly. "It is beginning," she said quietly. "What is?" he asked. "Your resistance spreading," she replied. For the first time since he woke up that morning, he was not thinking about escape. He was thinking about defense, about his city, about his planet. The hunters were coming up the street below, and humanity, for the first time, was being measured. The first hunter stepped into the street like it owned the ground beneath it. It was taller than any human, nearly 3 meters high, its body covered in layered dark armor that shifted slightly with each movement. Its head was narrow and smooth, with no visible eyes, only a thin horizontal line glowing faint red across where a face should have been. Its arms were long, ending in sharp metallic extensions that looked like weapons even before they activated. Behind it, more hunters emerged from the shadows between buildings. Silent, organized, unstoppable. People screamed and ran, but not everyone. Police officers took positions behind cars, weapons raised with shaking hands. Soldiers from a nearby base moved into the street in formation. They looked small compared to the hunters, but they did not step back. The first shots were fired by humans. Bullets struck the armor of the leading hunter, sparks flying. The creature paused for half a second, then lifted its arm. A pulse of blue energy shot forward. The police car exploded instantly, metal bending like paper. The shockwave hit the nearby buildings, cracking windows and throwing debris into the air. He watched from the broken window of his apartment, his hands gripping the frame tightly. "This is not a battle," he whispered. "It is a test," she replied beside him. The hunters moved forward slowly, scanning the street with red pulses of light. Where the light touched humans, some collapsed instantly, unconscious. Others screamed, holding their heads in pain. "They are attempting neural suppression," she said quickly. "Mind control," he said. "Yes," she answered. He felt that strange warmth inside his skull again, stronger now. When one of the red pulses swept across the building and passed over him, he expected pain, but there was none. Instead, the warmth flared brighter, like a shield forming inside his mind. She turned toward him sharply. "You felt that," she said. "Yes," he replied, breathing heavily. "And you resisted," she added. Below, something unexpected happened. A group of civilians who had collapsed moments earlier began to move again. Slowly at first, then with more control. They shook their heads, as if waking from a deep sleep. One of them picked up a fallen weapon. Another helped a soldier stand. The hunters hesitated for the first time. "The signal," she whispered, watching the street. "Your mind is interfering." He did not understand how. He was not doing anything. But the warmth inside his head pulsed again, and more humans stood up. The suppression waves seemed weaker now. The soldiers regrouped quickly, firing in coordinated bursts, aiming at joints and weak points. One hunter staggered slightly as repeated shots struck the same area. The red line on its head flickered. "Armor is adaptive," she said, "but not perfect." Another explosion shook the street as a military vehicle launched a heavier round. This time, the projectile hit a hunter directly in the chest. Cracks spread across its armor. It let out a low mechanical sound, almost like static, before collapsing forward onto the pavement. For a moment, hope flashed across the street. Humans cheered briefly, but the remaining hunters reacted instantly. Their movements became faster, more aggressive. Energy pulses intensified. Entire sections of the street were torn apart. Buildings scarred, asphalt melted. He stepped back from the window, breathing hard. "This is because of me," he said quietly. "No," she replied firmly. "This is because of them." He looked at her, confused. "They would have come eventually," she continued. "Resistance only accelerated contact." The building shook violently. Heavy metallic footsteps echoed from the stairwell. They had entered the building. His heart pounded so hard it hurt. She moved toward the door, her posture shifting from calm observer to trained warrior. "You must focus," she said sharply. "On what?" he asked, panic rising again. "On the warmth," she replied. "Do not fight it." The footsteps grew closer, metal scraping against concrete. The apartment door at the end of the hallway exploded inward. Screams followed. He clenched his fists, closing his eyes for a second. The warmth inside his mind spread outward. Not painful, not overwhelming, just steady, like a signal reaching beyond him. She placed her hand lightly on his shoulder. "Good," she whispered. The footsteps stopped just outside his door. A shadow blocked the light under the frame. The door handle twisted once, then snapped off entirely. The door flew inward as a hunter stepped inside, its red line scanning rapidly across the room. It focused on him immediately. The air around them seemed to vibrate. He felt a powerful pressure pushing against his mind, trying to break in, trying to crush him from the inside. He almost fell to his knees, but then the warmth surged again, stronger than before. He imagined standing firm, not for himself, but for the people outside, for the soldiers still fighting, for the civilians who stood back up. The pressure inside his head met resistance. The hunter froze mid-step, its red line flickering wildly. She moved instantly, releasing a concentrated burst of energy from her hand. The hunter's armor cracked. Energy exploded outward from its core, and it collapsed onto the floor, lifeless. Silence filled the apartment for a brief second. Then more footsteps echoed in the stairwell. Not one, not two, many. She looked at him, her expression serious but not afraid. "They are adapting," she said. "So are we," he replied quietly. Outside, human resistance was no longer scattered panic. It was organized defense. Radio signals coordinated units across districts. Civilians formed support lines. Medical teams moved undercover. The hunters had expected fear. Instead, they were facing defiance. And somewhere above the city, inside the massive carrier ship, something new was being calculated. Humanity was not surrendering. It was fighting back. The footsteps in the stairwell suddenly stopped, not because the hunters were gone, but because something else had arrived. A deep metallic vibration moved through the building, stronger than before. The air felt charged, heavy with pressure. She stepped closer to the broken doorway, her eyes narrowing slightly. "He is here," she said quietly. "Who?" he asked. "The commander," she replied. The word carried weight. The remaining hunters in the stairwell moved aside, their heavy forms creating a clear path. Then he appeared. He was taller than the others, broader, his armor darker and more refined. Unlike the hunters, his movements were smooth, almost graceful. A faint silver glow ran across his body in controlled patterns. When he stepped into the hallway, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. His head turned slowly toward her first, not toward him. For a long second, neither of them spoke. Then the commander's voice filled the apartment. It did not come from his mouth. It echoed directly inside their minds. "You disappoint us," the voice said calmly. She did not lower her gaze. "I expected that response," she answered aloud. The commander's attention shifted toward him. The pressure inside his skull returned instantly, stronger than anything before. He staggered slightly, but did not fall. "So this is the anomaly," the voice said inside his mind. He clenched his jaw, fighting to keep his thoughts steady. "He is more than anomaly," she replied firmly. The commander ignored her words. "You were sent to study this species," the voice continued, "not to defend it." She stepped slightly in front of him, protective without hesitation. "I completed my study," she said. "And your conclusion?" the commander asked coldly. "That humans are not a threat to order," she replied. "They're a challenge to stagnation." The red line across the commander's face brightened slightly. "Your emotional contamination is evident," the voice said. He felt anger rise inside him. "Emotional contamination," he repeated quietly. The commander's attention shifted back to him. "Your species forms irrational bonds," the voice said, "protecting unrelated individuals without logic." "That is not weakness," she said sharply. "It is instability," the commander replied. Outside, distant explosions continued across the city. But inside the apartment, the silence between them felt heavier than war. "You were once our most effective hunter," the commander said to her. The words hit him harder than he expected. He turned toward her slowly. "You were a hunter," he said quietly. She did not deny it. "Yes," she replied, her voice steady. I specialized in resistant civilizations, she continued. His stomach tightened. You were sent for me from the start, he said. Yes, she answered again. The truth settled between them like broken glass. The commander's voice cut through the tension. She was chosen because she understands minds like yours. She was meant to weaken you. She was meant to prepare you for compliance. He felt a flash of betrayal, sharp and sudden. Is that true? He asked her. She held his gaze without hesitation. That was my mission, she admitted. And now, he demanded. Now I refuse it, she said firmly. The commander stepped forward slightly. You have grown attached, the voice observed. She did not respond. You see something in them that does not exist, the commander continued. I see potential, she said calmly. The pressure in his head increased again. The commander was testing him directly now, trying to push past his mental resistance. He felt his thoughts bending, stretching. Images flashed in his mind. Earth destroyed, cities burning, humanity erased in silence. Submit the anomaly, the commander said. Your world will be spared immediate cleansing. The offer echoed clearly. Give him up. Save Earth. For a moment, even he felt the weight of that choice. If I surrender, he asked quietly, you leave Earth alone? For a time, the commander replied. She stepped in front of him again. No, she said sharply. You cannot trust that. It is efficient, the commander replied. It is temporary, she argued. The commander's glow intensified slightly. You have deviated beyond recovery, the voice declared. He looked at her carefully. You are risking everything, he said. Yes, she replied without hesitation. Why, he asked. Her violet eyes softened slightly. Because humans feel, she said. Because you protect each other even when you do not have to. Because you fight even when you know you might lose. I have never seen that in any species before. The commander's voice cut in again. Sentiment is weakness. No, she replied quietly. It is evolution. The pressure in his mind suddenly peaked. The commander launched a full psychic assault. He felt as if his skull would split open. His knees nearly gave out, but then something unexpected happened. The warmth inside him did not just resist. It expanded. He felt other minds around him. Not clearly, but faintly. Soldiers outside still fighting. Civilians refusing to run. Pilots in the sky refusing to retreat. Their fear, their determination, their refusal to surrender. It flowed through him like energy. The commander paused. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in that red line. What is this? The voice demanded. He is not alone, she said softly. He straightened slowly, breathing heavily but standing firm. The pressure inside his head shifted direction. Not inward, outward. The commander stepped back slightly. This species is integrating resistance, the voice observed. Yes, she replied. And you helped it. Yes, she confirmed again. Silence filled the room for a long second. Then the commander spoke one final time. Then you are both classified as hostile. The hunters in the hallway reactivated their weapons. The building trembled as energy began charging. He felt the connection inside him growing stronger. He was not just defending his own mind anymore. He was touching something larger, something human. And for the first time, the invaders were not calculating victory. They were recalculating survival. Energy built inside the hallway like a storm waiting to break. The hunters raised their weapons, blue light gathering at the edges of their arms. The commander stood still, observing, calculating. He felt the pressure inside his mind again, but this time it did not feel like an attack. It felt like a network, a growing current connecting him to something beyond the walls of the apartment, beyond the city, beyond the fear. He could sense fragments of thought, not clear voices, not words, but emotion, determination, anger, courage. Humans across the city were still fighting. Firefighters pulling people from damaged buildings. Medics refusing to abandon the wounded. Soldiers reloading even after losing ground. Pilots circling again for another strike even though their missiles had failed before. He felt them all like distant sparks, and without fully understanding how, he reached back. The warmth inside his skull expanded outward like a pulse. The hunters fired. Blue energy tore through the apartment walls. But something invisible pushed against it. Not a shield of metal. Not alien technology. Something else. The energy blast weakened as they crossed the space between the hunters and him. The commander stepped forward. "This is impossible," the voice echoed inside his mind. "It is human," she replied calmly. He closed his eyes for a brief second, focusing not on fear, but on connection. He imagined every person outside who refused to surrender, every small act of resistance, every hand reaching to help someone else. The warmth surged again, stronger than before. Across the city, something shifted. The red suppression waves from the hunters flickered and lost strength. Civilians who had collapsed earlier stood again, clearer than before. Soldiers felt sudden clarity in their minds. Panic faded into sharp focus. Radio communications stabilized. Voices coordinated faster, more confidently. Military units adjusted tactics in real time. Instead of scattered defense, they formed unified lines. In the sky, pilots noticed something strange. Their targeting systems briefly glitched, then recalibrated with improved accuracy. A coordinated missile strike launched again, this time aiming at the weak point that had formed earlier in the carrier's armor. The massive ship above the city reacted too late. The explosion was not large enough to destroy it, but large enough to damage its lower core. Inside the apartment, the commander staggered slightly. The red line across his face flickered. "You are amplifying them," the voice said. He opened his eyes slowly. "No," he answered quietly. "We are amplifying each other." She stood beside him, watching with something like pride in her expression. "This is what you failed to understand," she said to the commander. "Humans are strongest when connected." The hunters in the hallway hesitated, their movements no longer perfectly synchronized. Some stepped backward, their suppression signals breaking apart under the growing human resistance. Across the world, the effect spread, not like a virus, not like a machine, but like a feeling. People who had been watching the invasion on screens suddenly felt less fear, less helplessness, more resolve. Military commands in other countries coordinated without delay. For the first time in history, global defense operated as one system. The commander attempted one final psychic surge, a concentrated attack aimed directly at him. The pressure returned with crushing force. His vision blurred, his knees nearly buckled. But then the connection strengthened again. Millions of human minds pushing back not in anger, but in refusal. Refusal to kneel. Refusal to disappear. The surge broke apart like waves hitting stone. The commander stepped back fully this time. "This species cannot be synchronized," the voice said slowly. "Correct," she replied. "They cannot be controlled." The carrier ship above the city began pulling upward, its damaged core glowing unevenly. The three descent crafts followed, retreating through the cloud layer. On the streets below, hunters began withdrawing, not defeated in battle, but denied in purpose. The red glow across their forms dimmed as they retreated toward the sky. Silence slowly returned to the city, broken only by distant sirens and the sound of people calling out to one another. Inside the apartment, the commander looked at her one last time. "You have chosen exile," the voice said. "Yes," she answered calmly. "And you have chosen war." "No," she corrected quietly. "I have chosen hope." The commander's form shimmered briefly, then dissolved into light, vanishing with the remaining hunters. The pressure in the air lifted. The sky slowly returned to its natural blue, clouds drifting as if nothing had happened. He collapsed to his knees, exhausted, breathing heavily. The connection faded gently, leaving behind only the memory of it. She helped him stand, steady but silent. "It is over," he whispered. "For now," she replied. Emergency vehicles filled the streets below, people emerging from buildings, helping each other, assessing damage, but alive, united. He looked at her carefully. "You are staying," he said, though it sounded more like a question. She glanced toward the sky one last time. "If I remain," she said softly, "they will return with greater force." He felt a quiet ache in his chest. "You helped save us," he said. "No," she corrected gently. "You saved yourselves." Morning light touched the city again, the same way it had touched his face hours earlier. But everything was different now. He had gone to sleep alone in an ordinary world. He now stood in a world that had been tested and had refused to break. She stepped back slightly, her form beginning to shimmer faintly. "My people will hunt me," she said calmly, "but I will not regret this." He nodded slowly, understanding more than he could explain. As her form faded into light and vanished, he looked out over the city. Humans moving together, rebuilding already, not waiting for permission, not waiting for rescue. The invasion had come to measure humanity, and humanity had answered, not with surrender, but with signal, a signal that said clearly across the stars, "We are still here."